name is Yonit, I'm a bass teacher at Lessonface, and I'm here to tell you the 4 things that you have to practice when you pick up a bass. Okay, so congratulations, you made the right choice of picking up the instrument that will make you the coolest person in the band. But you picked it up, it's 4 strings, 2 less than guitar, but still something is not working, you're not sure what to do with it. Well, that's why I'm here. So I'm gonna give you 4 points to consider practicing when you just picked up a bass and you want to try to get better and play with other people. So the first thing that you have to practice is very, very important. And that's going to be really the element that separates you from being an amateur to a good bass player. And this element is clean sound. Okay? So a lot of the students I get, the first problem that we encounter is that when they play a string, they have other strings ringing at the same time. Okay, so most of this actually comes from the right hand. So you have to have good control in the right hand. So every time that you play, you want to really give it a full attention. And then another thing that could help it is that you can sometimes use the left hand to mute it, but as you can see, sometimes you have the harmonics, okay? So it's kind of a combination between the right hand control and the left hand control that you need to practice. Now, how do we practice clean sound? When you play a bass line, the best thing that you can do is record yourself. Now, it doesn't have to be a DAW, it could be, that'll be great, but it could also just be your phone. Record yourself and then listen to yourself after and see how it sounds so that all of your focus will be, okay, how do I sound, and not just how do I play and then how do I sound, okay? Very important. When you practice this, it's kind of essential that you won't go into the too busy bass lines that you may like. Try to pick something simple that you can work, have your time really focused on, you can have your articulation really focused on, and you can actually see if the sound is clean. Now, if you can't have 2 notes in a bass line clean, then I can guarantee you that you can't have anything that is a little bit more complicated than that. So for this occasion, I created a little simple bass line for you to practice so you can see if your sound is clean or not, and actually compare it so you can have a few takes of playing it and then you'll see. For when you practice it, even though you're just working on clean sound, it's very important that you use the metronome. The metronome, as I always say, is your best friend. It's not gonna lie to you when you're not on time and you're not playing well, okay? So make sure that you work with the metronome so you can have clean sound and work on the second element that we're gonna talk about. But first of all, let's try this exercise that I made for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so now that we played this, you have a little exercise to work with and to make sure that your sound is clean. Now, sound is clean, meaning that there's no other strings ringing when you play. If you want to know more about how to mute your strings properly, press this link over here, and I'll explain to you. So work on the clean sound, and as you can already see, we're working with the metronome, which brings me to the second thing that you have to practice, which is time. Okay, so the bass guitar is really the spine of any rhythm section because we are like the people who help the guitar and the keyboard communicate with the drums. We have a lot of rhythm aspects and elements in the playing, but we also have our ways to show the harmony progression, right? So lucky for you, this exercise can also really, really help you practice time. Now, you may think that your time is very stable, but first of all, if you haven't worked with the metronome, you may discover that you're wrong. And second of all, I'm just going to repeat that. Please practice simple in the beginning so that you have control, okay? You have to have a bass and then go into the more complicated things later on. We want to make sure that everything sounds good so you can jam with your friends very soon. Third thing that you have to practice when you pick up a bass is put theory to work. Okay, so what do I mean by that? It's basically know what to play and when. It's very important. There's a lot of people that kind of wing it, but you know, how good is something when you wing it as opposed to when you really know what you want to do? Okay, so spend a little time and then get to know which chords you should play. Or for example, if you've come from guitar and you know that a guitar player is playing G and you are playing the root note, that's awesome. But after the root note, there's a whole world that you can play. You know, you can play a whole chord, you can play a triad, you can play different scales. And I know that a lot of people really rely on their ear, but there's something very focusing about knowing what you're going to play. You know, it's kind of like, think about it when you're cooking. Okay, you're cooking in the kitchen, you haven't really learned how to cook, and you're just putting different spices. Sometimes you luck out and you have an awesome tasting dish. A lot of times you've accidentally put cinnamon in chicken soup, and well, that didn't work quite well, right? So it's the same thing with knowing what notes to put where. And when you actually have a grasp of even just minimum theory knowledge, it would really help you to know which notes to play when you're jamming with your guitar player friend. Okay, the fourth thing that you have to practice when you pick up a bass actually doesn't have to do with the bass being in your hands. Okay, the fourth thing is every time that you listen to music, isolate the bass line. Listen only to the bass line and see what it does, okay? Now this doesn't have to be music that is based on bass. The bass is the star of the music. It could be any sort of music. It could be funk, it could be country, it could be pop, it could be metal, it could be anything you want, but listen only to the bass and just take mental notes of what is happening. Okay, so you may see a different element such as consistency, you know, like that the bass line repeats and it repeats the same way and it's being played the same way and is repeating the same pattern. Or you may find something like different styles of playing. So maybe somebody plays fingerstyle and then suddenly pops into slap. Or you may see, you may find different sounds. So you may see that some songs have the pick in them, have a bass player playing with a pick, some don't have it, and maybe some songs that you really, really love and really move you only have whole notes, you know, and this is the beauty of bass, that we can play very complicated and very kind of like virtuoso, and then sometimes we could just stand in the back, and it's very important to know when to do what. Okay, because it's our job as bass players. Okay, so this was the 4 things that you have to practice when you pick up a bass. Again, congrats. This is the best instrument in the world, so you've done the right thing. I hope that I gave you some elements to work on already. This is obviously just a very short preview of what you can practice on the bass. Don't let the mere 4 strings fool you. There's a lot to do. It is a very fun instrument to play. And if you have any questions, feel free to post in the comments below, and I'll do my best to answer them. Otherwise, feel free to book a lesson with me on Lessonface and learn a little bit more about this instrument and how to work with the bass and play with other people. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that it helped you, and